result of fluoridation, our children will be healthier and happier.
And now, Anotha Venugopal.
My whole class decided to look into fluoride because we wanted to learn everything we could about it. At first, I was a bit indifferent about fluoridated water, sad to say. Over the year, though, I discovered more about fluoride and now jump at almost every opportunity to argue against its presence in our water. I found that fluoride has been linked to osteoporosis, birth defects, dental fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis, possibly leading to lower IQ levels, and more. Why do we drink fluoridated water if it can cause possible health problems? Join the fight to ban fluoride from water today. Woo!
Water fluoridation is not a conspiracy. It's a policy. It's a policy that's protected by the United States EPA and the FDA. It's a policy that is promoted by the Center for Disease Control, the United States Public Health Service, the American Dental Association, and the American Medical Association. They're using hazardous waste and adding it to our water supply because they've got a lot of it to get rid of. There's no reason for it. It doesn't do anything to improve the health of this country, and I believe it's destroying the fabric of our nation.
In April of 1985, I was in the hallway of the East Tower at Waterside Mall in Washington, and a friend of mine who was writing the fluoride in drinking water standard stopped me, and he was really, really frustrated because he was being told that he wanted to set the standard at 2 milligrams per liter. He thought that was easily justified, but they told him they didn't want it 2, they wanted it 4. He was called to the director's office and told that what he was going to do. So he had to go back and alter the scientific document to support a higher number. So it was originally intended to be half of what it is now. When he told me this, that he was being forced to lie, basically, I got really, really interested, and I thought, you know, this is something we need to run up the flagpole and draw people's attention to, and maybe we can get a change of climate in the agency. To do something about this, we started writing letters to the administrator. It totally ignored us, never got responses to anything. It was as if we didn't even exist.
We became aware once we heard that the agency wanted to set the drinking water standard at 4 ppm. We started digging into this. We went to look at the criteria document that was to be the agency's scientific justification for that, and found out a couple of things. One, that it was written by a contractor. It wasn't done by EPA staff people. They had ignored quite a bit of the data on some critical toxicity points, not only the high incidence of dental fluorosis that would occur, but also mutagenicity, and there was some indications of carcinogenicity that were just not showing up in the criteria document. Dr. Carton and I went to see the head of the drinking water office at that time and asked that the people who wrote that criteria document come and give a seminar, very much like Dr. Yamianis had given us one, and to justify the conclusions that were in the criteria document. And the drinking water office said, oh no, we're not going to do that. There was a notice and comment period, and that's all closed, and this is a closed issue. We're not going to get into that. And so that started the long train of suspicion, which continues to this very day, about what EPA's complicity is in the National Program for Water Fluoridation.
Everyone agrees, including the American Dental Association, the National Academies of Science, the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, that the dose of fluoride a baby receives on fluoridated tap water formula exceeds the amount known to cause harm. Why is that okay? Why are we allowing that? Meet the whistleblowers and the scientists that will tell you what's going on and will tell you how to stop it.
In about 1994, Dr. Marcus came to my office. He was about to be fired from the EPA, although he was an absolutely distinguished and long-standing scientist with unparalleled reputation and credentials. He showed me a memo he wrote on the fluoride issue that indicated that fluoride could have severe adverse health effects on people. And he had recommended additional research be conducted within the agency to make sure that the amount of fluoride that was added to drinking water was safe. And he showed me other documents that indicated that the agency was very upset with him for this recommendation and in fact had initiated its campaign to fire him.
The agency decided that I did it on purpose and wanted to change public policy as an individual rather than going through the agency's procedures, which was totally untrue. And they decided that rather than deal with me on a scientific basis, they would find an excuse to fire me. The Inspector General went to great lengths to fabricate material to show that I was doing terrible things. They fabricated a time card and claimed that I had stolen time.
The agency actually fired Dr. Marcus, its senior science advisor, its only board-certified toxicologist. They fired him. And we took it to trial, a full-scale trial for a number of weeks in front of a Department of Labor judge. He heard both sides and ruled down the line for Dr. Marcus. His memo was legally protected. The agency retaliated against him because he wrote a memo criticizing fluoride and calling for more research. And his termination was reversed.
The outcome was that I won my case because it was shown that all the charges they had made were untrue, with the exception of one, which was that I used the wrong pronoun. And when I had given testimony to help people who were injured by large corporations, I had used the term "we" when referring to EPA's activities instead of EPA.
In Atlanta, Georgia, a number of civil rights leaders have stepped up to the plate to fight silicofluoride in the drinking water. It's a civil rights issue. You have injury to their children, they're fighting it because they don't want their children to be injured by silicofluoride any longer.
Cholesterol, cardiovascular diseases, these are diseases which disproportionately impact the African American community. A lot of times it's because of diet. A lot of times it's because we get the information on health later than many other communities. So this is one we want to be the headlight instead of the tail light when it comes to the water that we drink. So this is why, and particularly in the South, because it is so warm, the humidity is so high, we tend to drink a lot of water. And so we need the best level of safety in our drinking water as possible.
And don't forget, we also bathe with fluoridated water, and skin absorption studies have not been done. Fluoride is a toxin, and toxin is another word for poison. And how do we know this? Well, the CDC has a toxicology profile for fluoride. And not only that, but the EPA also has established reference doses for fluoride, which is only done for toxic substances.
I was asked by my supervisor to find out why children who are Hispanic and black have higher levels of lead in their blood than white folks. It turns out that there are alleles that control the amount of material that is absorbed, such as lead, arsenic, heavy metals. black children have 2 alleles that increase the absorption rate. Hispanic children have 1 allele that does and 1 that doesn't. And Caucasian children have the slowest rate of absorption. I found that extremely disturbing, and I wrote several memoranda suggesting that the levels we were setting that were acceptable of lead were unacceptable for blacks and for Hispanics because they would absorb more given the same exposure.
We don't have a knowledgeable, scientific-based government health program overall. They're not looking at science because you cannot look at science and say it's okay to put 2 of the most neurotoxic, cellular toxic elements, fluoride and mercury, in the body and say it's okay. And they defend them. Our FDA has bent over backwards defending the use of fluoride and mercury, and they should be the ones out checking. Instead of that, it's citizens group who are activists who know a little bit of science that do this. And we really need to get some support, and we need to get some support from Congress. The real problem is Congress just seems unlikely to do this because the lobbyists from these major corporations, the pharmaceutical firms, the fluoridation firms, the dental amalgam firms, can go and pay money to Congress to keep them and have them ignore this problem. We need to fight that. We need to get a citizens activist group together to turn this over.
Exposing a child to chemicals in the first 6 years of life that will harm that child's learning capability, self-control, and have effects on his brain function that are lifelong. To permit that to happen when you know it's happening, and not to interfere by stopping the use of something like silicon fluoride, which makes it worse, is immoral. It is evil to harm children by poisoning them in the first 6 years of life once you know you're doing it. It wasn't evil to start putting silicon fluoride in the water. We were getting rid of a toxic chemical that was a side waste product from making weapons-grade uranium, which just made America win the Second World War and saved literally hundreds of thousands of lives in invading Japan. I don't want to pretend that I can rewrite history. The critical thing is that once you discover that there's something you can change at relatively low cost that will help millions of human beings, you have an obligation to do it.
I can think of no better way to destroy a nation than to spread toxic substances far and wide. In the 70s, we learned just how bad lead was for it after we've been exposed for more than 50 years. Now we're adding silicon fluoride to the public drinking water, and that sucks lead into the bodies of the children. We have babies that are dying. 17,900 more babies die annually in the first year of life than they should or would otherwise if we protected the water supply. Why? We inject them on the day of birth with thimerosal, methylate, ethyl mercury. And then we put silicon fluoride in the tap water formula that they drink, which sucks lead into their bodies. Do you have children that can't learn to read and write, that have learning disorders? Yes, and you have damaged brains, but it's not just the children. The adults suffer as well because your body has no known use for lead, fluoride, or mercury, so it stores it in the bone if it can't get rid of it, and that destroys your joints. Why do you think we have all these joints being replaced in this country? Is it our great medical system, or is it because they're going bad because the bone is being poisoned? You can measure these elements in these diseased bones. This isn't going to stop until you make them. If you don't make them, they're going to keep doing it because it's making them billions of dollars. You got to step up to the plate and go to work and save your country from industry, military, policies that are damaging the health of our nation.